And welcome back, everyone, to the Pokemon Team Creation Series. This one comes to us from Eric. Well, that's the question. What is Starfire's Pokemon team? Starfire from DC, Teen Titans, all that. This is, by the way, I'm not specifically looking at the TV show Starfire. This is just the image that I found I could put in front of the screen here. But I'm not using the TV show. I'm kind of just compositing Starfire, which is, I think, the best way to go about it when you're looking at a character who exists in multiple medias. It has multiple different variations of themselves. Is to just composite them for these types of videos. When you're doing a versus, then you can look at specific versions. But when you're talking about, trying to create a fictionalized Pokemon team for this character, you are allowed to composite, I think. And Starfire proved to be a little tricky because there's actually, what's the best way to put it? I certainly could make a team. I did make a team, but there are aspects of the character that easily translate. And then after I got through that 50% of the team, like, okay, now what do I do? let me get through the stuff that made the most sense. So obviously, as a Tamarinian, as a extraterrestrial being on our planet, she's not human, and she has the ability to absorb radiation, solar radiation, and throw it back at a starbolt. So I knew fire Pokemon were definitely going to be a big part of the team. Tamarinians are also very empathic. They are very not controlled, but driven by their emotional state. So Pokemon that could work on that level as well made sense. The first Pokemon that made onto the team, though, were Snom. Now, why Snom? This is the big outlier, but it's not. If you remember the animated show, the cartoon, she had this little pet grub named Silky, who was actually a creation of Mothman. Sorry, not Mothman, Killer Moth, and then ultimately was it ultimately became like her pet, more or less. So I'm like, we gotta have a Silky. And so I'm going through all the bug Pokemon, and I looked at Snom, because that's kind of how you say it. I like Vespiquen, but Ice Bug might not be the best typing, but I do like the typing. And I used the Vespiquen on my Shield and Sword, my Shield run, and I liked it. It was actually a pretty good Pokemon. But Snom is so cute. Look at him. That's a Silky. That's your little pet right there. That is Silky. Snom, he's so cute. But then we moved past that. Now these next two were like the first half of the team. Starfire, for better or the worst, has in many runs been kind of overly sexualized, not just from her design, although they have definitely done that. I do actually mean from her personality, too. They have made her a very in the mood kind of person, very horny girl at points. Now, that's not the core of the character, obviously. That's just how a lot of comic writers have decided to portray her at points, and for better or for worst. But because she is a very sexualized, has a lot of sex appeal to her, I kind of knew a Pokemon had to be on the team that represented that, the more feminine aspect of her. And luckily, there's a fire Pokemon that represents that to a T, and that is Salazzle. And it is a strictly female Pokemon. That, I think, makes a lot of sense, a Salazzle being on the team. Fire-based, almost femme fatale Pokemon. I mean, seriously, don't rule 34 this Pokemon. Unless you're one of those people, then you might like what you find, but you will not like what you find. By the way, I'll touch on Palworld in another video, but still, seriously, the pal that just is trying to get it on with not just pals and people, they such just Salazzle ripoff. I mean, let's be just straight up front. That is a Salazzle ripoff if I've ever seen it. But yeah, no, Salazzle makes sense. The more feminine aspects of Starfire's character, the more sexualized nature of her, and being a fire type. But speaking of fire types, I knew that we were going to be a big part of the team, and I was not wrong. I went with Armarouge for the next main fire type on the team. Armarouge, I should really update that image. It's a little blurry. Get more of an updated variation of that. But, no, we want that one. There we go. So, yeah, Armarouge, honestly, it's orange. Tamarian skin is naturally orange with red hair, with red on there. The flames. I could have gone Cerule Edge to match her outfit, but flame swords are more of a melee combat style, and while Tamarinians are certainly warriors, that doesn't represent the nature of her fire. Although I'm sure at some point she's like had fire on her fists and just throwing punches. I'm sure she's done that. But no, Armor Rouge I think made the most sense of someone who actually shoots fireballs. We don't really have a green fire Pokemon, do we? And I don't just mean like green in terms of their color. I mean like green flames. Because we got blue, we got more of a purple with some of the fire ghost types. We obviously got the standard orange. I know we've done white before. Orangey red, if that makes sense. But I think even... I don't think there's black flame. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think there's any Pokemon with black flames, though. At least not yet. And I don't think... And I'm positive there's no green flames. So, I don't know. I mean, we get, like, the purplish pinkish stuff. We definitely get the orangish red. There's even blue. I believe there is some white here or there, although maybe not, like, stark white. Maybe more... though I'm actually sure, now that I say that out loud, too. Now I correct myself. I don't think there's any white flames that are shown off on a Pokemon, usually. And even the blue stuff usually is left for shinies. So, I don't know. I think we need some more variety in our flame colors. But yeah, Armor Rouge made the most sense. It shoots the fireballs. It's humanoid. It does have a similar color palette to Starfire, at least on some level. So that makes sense. It was at this point I'm at half the list, and I'm like, okay, that's like kind of the core of what I can think of Starfire. Now I got to kind of space this out a little bit. Luckily, Tamarinians are very empathic, and their emotions kind of dictate their level of power and strength. So I went with Esper, which is also a very empathic Pokemon. I could have also gone to Ralts, to be honest, or Curlia, or Gardevoir. In fact, in hindsight, I probably would have swapped that. I should have swapped that out. In fact, you know what? I'm making an informed decision right now. I've done this once before, I think, in my Hue Neutron video, where I actually had to add Appleton into the video because I forgot there is a pie Pokemon. But yeah, 1 second. So, boop, there we go. Gardevoir is now being added to the list because I honestly completely overlooked the empathic nature of the Gardevoir line. I did. So, Gardevoir is actually now on the list, which does change the balancing of this team very much. And for the better, not for the worst. So yeah, Gardevoir, their entire line are empathic. They bond with strong emotions. Again, another waifumon, so take that for what it's worth, but it makes sense. Although, Gardevoirs are actually, percentage-wise, what is the gender ratio again of Gardevoirs? Because I know Gardevoirs up until Gallade was introduced had a male to female ratio. There's a great little meme on that where a trainer goes and like rolls in the bust of Gardevoir until you see this white line between two black, basically his butt cheeks, and then he realizes, it's like, wait, what? And then you see the thing, oh yeah, Gardevoirs have a blank to blank male to female ratio. And then the Gardevoir's eyes go red, and he's like, oh no! It's like, be gentle with me! No. It's like, you went for this. Oh god, Gardevoirs can be 50-50 male or female, so you run that risk at your own peril. God, this is getting so after dark for this particular Pokemon team creation. So, okay, Gardevoir is actually the one I add to the list. Now, after that, I'm like, okay, think. Tamarinians are warriors. We should have a fighting type on the team. Luckily, they're also fire fighting type, so let me see if I can figure anything out with that. I went with Infernape on that route, mostly due to the fact that the flame hair, that's something Starfire can just have when she's really going all out. Her hair basically turns to flames. So I do like that. Now, granted, she's less of a martial arts, more of a warrior, a fighter. And I should say martial artists can definitely be warriors. I'm not saying that. Just, the difference between like a one-on-one martial arts Bruce Lee type and say when Donnie Yen is going ham on fools as Ip Man in War. Like there's a difference in terms of like a warrior and a martial artist versus just a martial artist. Because he's based primarily on Sun Wukong, that's more of a martial artist warrior, so I guess it does kind of work a bit better. So that was the last one. Now I'm kind of stuck at this point. Now I'm like, all right, who can round up the 6th spot? What else can I think of for Starfire? And then I stopped and realized, well, Starfire's, because her superpowers come from her emotions, and she is a very positive person. What if I try to find a Pokemon that kind of encapsulates joy and positivity on some level, but can still represent an aspect? And I realized, well, her ability to fly does come from her joy, or comes from her positive emotions. So what if I can find a flying type that can kind of represent like the joy of flying and just an overall happy Pokemon, but still very powerful? And so I went with Togekiss. I think Togekiss actually works very well. It's a very fun, joyful Pokemon that is still a good barometer for someone who's not bound, but is powered by their positivity. And it's a flying type, so that all balances out very well, I thought. And so that is ultimately your team. But as always, at the end of the video, how balanced is said team? Well, this is one of the few times we have a dual type in every aspect of this team. Granted, her Snom probably would just be like her Pikachu who doesn't fight, her little partner that she's had since the beginning. She probably even started out with like either started out with like a Ralts, or she started out with a Salandit, and then it turned into her like main Pokemon, followed by the Snom. But you have a Bug Ice type, which is going to be predominantly weak, mostly just to fire types. The Bug type does help out the weakness to fighting, but it's going to be predominantly weak to fire types. Quad 4 weak to fire, and Quad 4 weak to rock. Should add that on there. So does that, then you have Togekiss, which really isn't that badly off. It's going to have some weakness to rock, but not severely. It's going to have the weakness to electric, but again, not severely. It's going to have the poison weakness. Granted, Fairy doesn't really resist those types, so those are still types that are a problem, but it's going to have the fair weaknesses of steel and poison. So there's that. Then you also have the Infernape, which really firefighting doesn't have a ×4 weakness to the best of my knowledge. Because, actually, ground. Hold on. Ground could be a problem. I think ground could be a problem. Because fire is 100% weak to ground. Where are you, ground? There you are, ground. It's a 100% weak to ground. But, there you are, ground. But I can't remember if fighting is weak to ground. I don't think it is, but we're about to find out. No, it's neutral to ground. So yeah, it's besides the weaknesses that each respective type has. Fire being weak to water, that you can't help that. Being weak to ground, can't help that. It's not as weak to rock though because of the fighting type though. So the rock weakness is certainly mitigated. And then the fighting type weaknesses are still fairy, they're still psychic. Unfortunately, Ghost isn't strong against fighting. I don't know why, but it's not strong against fighting. And flying. There you go. So you have that. Then Salazzle. Salazzle, unfortunately, does get wrecked by ground types. 100% it does. Quad 4 weak to ground, as a matter of fact. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't recall, but Poison might also be weak to rock, if I remember correctly. No, Poison's neutral to rock. In fact, actually, Poison's resistant to rock. So at least the rock type is somewhat taken care of, but it's still weak to water. It's still weak to psychic. It's still got all these weaknesses. Then you got Gardevoir, who is a psychic fairy type, which means it's both weak and it's actually now neutral to poison, thanks to that. Steel types, it doesn't really have any advantage against. Psychic types, Ghost types, it doesn't really have any advantage against. And Bug types, it doesn't have any real advantage against. Both the poison and the dark type are mitigated because of the fairy and the psychic, so they're kind of neutralized out. Although any psychic attacks are still going to be immune and negated, more or less. And then you have a psychic fire type, which again, they don't have any crossover weaknesses, so you're really just dealing with the weaknesses there. So at the end of the day, how balanced is this team? It's not terribly unbalanced. You are still going to run the risk of a couple things. Ground is still going to be a very big problem for half this team. 100% ground is going to be a problem. Particularly for the Quad 4 Salazzle, but again, there's no special resistances when it comes to Infernape or Armarouge. God, I was blanking on the name. Rock types are also somewhat problematic. Again, Armarouge does not have a special resistance. Salazzle, even though Salazzle's kind of neutral, Infernape's kind of neutral, but Snom is going to be screwed over by it, and Togekiss is going to have a problem with that. Ghost types are also going to be problematic. You have 2 Psychic types on the team that don't have a secondary type that's resistant to Ghost. And Infernape will not weak to Ghost, assuming Infernape has at least 2 fighting type moves, half of its move pool is just going to be screwed over by that. Beyond that, though, I mean, it's not that bad. I mean, Psychic, for example, it's going to hurt. It's going to really cleave through Salazzle, and it's going to cleave through Infernape, but that's about it. There's not really a strong option against it, unfortunately, but what are you going to do? Overall, it's not a terribly unbalanced team, but it definitely leaves some room for improvement. But that's just my opinion. Let me know what you would do differently, if you would do anything differently. But thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe. That is the team for Starfire, Tamarin. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.